All right, let's go ahead and get started. Once again, my name is Keith Whalen from RPI Consultants. I want to thank you for taking the time to attend this webinar, Adventures in Cloud. We have Richard Stout and Chip Cunningham here to talk about lessons learned and recommendations for anyone that is in process or considering migrating to the cloud. It seems like just yesterday this trend started, but we've actually been working on this for almost 2 years now, I believe. So a lot of experiences to share. And with that, I give you Mr. Richard Stout, Mr. Chip Cunningham.
All right. Thanks, Keith. Thank you. Today our cloud presentation is going to be focused on technical topics. We've had the great fortune to have worked on many cloud projects over the past year or so, not just upgrades from 9 to 10, but as well migrations of Lawson 10 from on-premise, Lawson 10 from other hosting providers into the Infor Cloud. So we'll be discussing some of the more technical aspects of that project. We are RPI consultants, 60 plus strong, with specializations across the full spectrum of Infor Lawson products. And we have unlocked the Cloud Suite Specialized badge from Infor. So we're a part of a select group of partners who can bring your organization to the Infor Cloud. So let's talk a bit about Infor Cloud. In a general sense, Infor Cloud, as we know, is hosted with Amazon Web Services. And what that means to you is that your cloud environment is built on the Microsoft technology stack, Windows Server and SQL Server. And when you become a customer of Infor Cloud, your first cloud environment becomes accessible to you relatively quickly because it's cloned from a template rather than having components individually installed like you do with an on-premise deployment.
Yeah, and what makes that important is that when you do have that cloud suite provisioned, you have a proven Lawson technology stack that is specialized for the cloud.
Yeah, the versioning, the tuning, it's all optimized for the cloud environment. So once you've signed up for the cloud and had your environment provisioned, the next thing you'll want to do is get connected with a site-to-site VPN between your on-premise network and the cloud deployment. And this is going to get you access to your cloud servers, not just end-user access, but administrator access. And it also allows you as a customer query access to the database. So you can run queries against the SQL Server housing your cloud application data, as well as file transfer for interfaces or batch jobs. File transfer is available with either Windows shared folders or FTP. So what does a cloud project look like? What does it look like in the process of getting to the cloud? It's traditionally a production first style project in which multiple migrations or passes occur leading up to a go live. So let's take a look at a sample project approach here. In this example, moving from Lawson 9 on-premise to Lawson 10 in the cloud, and I've structured this as a 3-pass production first project. So with our first pass, we'll take our newly provisioned pre-live cloud environment and bring in all of your configuration and data for our first pass migration. This is a qualitative build of the system, and it opens up the system for application exploration and your initial testing, and most importantly, development. You'll want to get your reports, your flows, your interfaces all pointed over to the cloud and mitigate any incompatibilities. Your second pass will occur at the conclusion of the development cycle. And the second pass readies the environment for user acceptance testing with a fresh set of data. And it also acts as a trial run of the go live. In the second pass, we do a timing validation, which is going to enable us to put together a go live checklist with a schedule down to the minute, so we know we can predict how long each step in the live migration process will take. And finally, with user acceptance testing complete, we roll into readiness assessment, final pre-live checklist, and the third pass migration occurring over a weekend to transition over to the cloud servers. Once this has happened, the test environment will be populated with configuration and data. And Infor will do a data refresh of your cloud test environment upon request.
The number of passes is usually a client decision. We normally suggest 3 passes for a Windows to Windows migration and 4 or more passes with a DB2 or Oracle migration.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the roles and types of customer responsibilities as a part of a cloud project. It really does take a village to come together to successfully complete a project of this magnitude. And it's important that key personnel from across your organization are participating in this project from the very beginning. The cornerstone of a successful cloud project is strong project management. What with the various parties involved in this project between Infor, the different pieces of the Infor organization, Cloud Ops, and your consulting services provider, project management is important to keep everyone oriented towards the right goal and tackle issues as they arise. Your Lawson administrator also plays an important part of a cloud project, and not just throughout the duration of the project, but after live as well. There are still Lawson administration duties that are a customer responsibility, even though your system is hosted on the cloud. It's important that your IT department is involved in this from the very beginning. Various aspects of your IT organization are needed to complete the cloud migration. We have involvement from the networking group, setting up the VPNs. We've got desktop support, making sure that your client-side application, the browser compatibility is good. We have IT security and user provisioning and Active Directory management involved. And then, of course, your development team working on things such as interfaces, automations, reports, what have you. And then your functional project team needs to be engaged pretty heavily, especially through the testing phase. And we do emphasize testing in a cloud project, maybe more so than an on-premise upgrade. And we strongly recommend creating and managing a thorough test plan throughout the project. All right, so let's talk a bit about what we can do to get our cloud project launched well from the beginning. One thing we do want to pay special attention to is desktop or user interface compatibility. Even if you are on Lawson 10 today, chances are your environment version when moving to the cloud won't be identical to what you're running today. So you do want to make sure your browser compatibility is solid. Take a look at thick client application compatibility, Any change in policy, group policy that's based on a domain name that might be changing, or cookies policy, or what have you.
And along with that, there are some unique capabilities that Lawson has in moving to the cloud because of their implementation of ADFS. ADFS will allow you a pass-through authentication so that when you open up your browser and navigate to the Lawson page, you have the ability to be logged in.
Another thing that we want to take a look at when getting prepared to move to cloud is the size of the application database. Of course, with this project, the lift and shift of the application product line data is probably the most visible portion of the project, and obviously the more data you have, the longer it's going to take to transfer to the cloud environment, the longer downtime you need to complete a go live. So we do recommend taking a look at the size of the database and potential opportunities for data purging or archiving prior to starting a cloud project. Let's talk through how exactly do we move data up into the cloud, and why does it matter how large the database size is?
So SQL Server is going to be a pretty standard backup and restore to the cloud. So it's going to be relatively quick. To back it up, you're going to FTP it up to the cloud, which depending on your database size may take a little bit longer, and then you'll put it into the cloud database and run your restore into the cloud database and run your migrations from there.
Yeah, so if you're already on SQL Server today, that gives you the fastest path moving to cloud, and it's as easy as doing a SQL Server backup of your application product line database and transferring that backup file up to the cloud-based SQL Server.
Right. So, Oracle and DB2 are a little different because obviously they're different databases. So that is really where size can affect the amount of downtime you have. If your database size is under a ballpark of 30 gig, you can actually you can utilize the Lawson tools, the EXP SysDB and the import SysDB up into the cloud. It takes a little longer, but you don't have to go through the database migration steps and use the SQL Server migration tools and do a full database migration. However, if your database is bigger than 30 gig, we've developed some scripts and that can transform that data from from an Oracle or DB2 database into SQL Server, and it's going to take a little bit longer, but we do have that ability. It's better than using the Lawson tools, because the Lawson tools can take quite a while.
Right. I mean, if you've got a database size 100 gigabytes or more, it's just not feasible to have the amount of downtime that would be required to use the Lawson export and import utilities to move your database basically through a file. The way that we face that challenge is we've created an out-of-band database conversion procedure that we've used to both from DB2 and from Oracle to convert the data into SQL Server format. And then once we have it in a SQL Server database, at that point it follows the typical SQL Server path.
So I think we have a couple questions. One is, can we use ping instead of ADFS or SSO? When you're talking about ADFS, ADFS is the supported authentication method between the cloud and your Active Directory. IFS is built on that ADFS technology, so you probably cannot use ping for SSO. And then the other question is, do you offer services to help with archiving and purging for S3, HR, and finance modules?
Oh, wow, what a setup. Yes, it's almost like our sales organization is paying attention. Yeah, we absolutely do offer services for purging and archiving. That's probably a topic for another webinar. but I'd be happy to discuss what our recommended process is for that, and how we've helped other customers reduce their database size by eliminating historical transactional data and moving it to a separate repository. Getting back to preparing for a cloud project. I mentioned it before. It's really important that your IT organization is engaged and participating in the planning of this project from the very beginning. Many times a project like this will be driven from the ERP management team, but the entire IT organization should be aligned and oriented towards success here, because we will need IT's involvement for networking, the VPN, ADFS setup, which goes back to your Windows administration team, corporate domain, and then, of course, AD management. And our final sort of topic of getting prepared for cloud is know your system architecture. It's it's really important that you have a complete inventory of all the customizations that are in the system, all the interfaces. So having a good documentation on your existing on-premise deployment or a third-party hosted deployment will put you in the best position to succeed with a cloud project. All right, so let's dive into another hot topic about cloud, and that's customizations. The SaaS model is really designed for all subscribers to be using the same application code base. So customizations don't play well with that methodology. But the good news is that when we talk about cloud, many things that we think of as a customization are actually not a customization in cloud terms at all. And that includes IPA flows. IPA is the preferred method for interface development in a cloud environment. Design Studio, DB-Def objects, anything done with Configuration Console, your Smart Office user interface customizations, any elements in LBI, and then of course your security.
Infor is these are some very robust tools and can replace a lot of your hardcore customizations, and so
yeah,
we've done a lot of that.
Exactly. Using this tool set will allow you to be in the best supportability and maintainability position for application updates. And this is true really across this on-premise Infor Lawson deployments as well. If we take a look at some other types of customizations, if we look at things like 4GL customizations, custom tables, and scripts, these are considered customizations, and it may be possible to bring them to the cloud if they are not modifications to Infor delivered code.
So we have another question. What about user exits?
What about user exits? I think they would fall into this category here.
Yeah, because it's going to be custom COBOL code.
Yeah. And then finally, on the other side of the spectrum, we have invasive customizations whereby Infor delivered code has been changed. Any customization that you have that needs to get reapplied after an application update is going to be in this category. And this is not a good fit for a cloud project. You should look at accomplishing this with some other tool or method. I'm not Infor, and I can't speak for them, but I will, in our experience, certain customizations that you may wish to bring to a cloud, bring to the cloud may be allowed upon signing of an SLA waiver. And ultimately that may result in billable time being incurred if Infor needs to support your customization.
Yeah, I think it's also important to note that you're not going to have the same kind of access to your servers that you have now in a cloud environment.
So your objective is to transition from customizations into configurations. Configurations live at a higher layer over the application and are designed to play nice with application updates. Now, if you're already on Windows and SQL Server, you're in a pretty good position, and chances are most of your customization elements will transfer to the cloud relatively painlessly.
If you're, however, on a DB2 environment or an Unix Oracle environment or a iSeries, you're gonna have to rewrite these things in order to get them up to the cloud, just because the environment is not there to run corn shell scripts and all those things that you would do normally in Unix you're not gonna be able to do in Windows. So we look when we get that rights document from you, we actually look to move those shell scripts and those interfaces over to IPA. The Oracle and DB2 database objects and PLSQL that you have out there, we look to put those in the SQL Server, packages. All your reports, whether they're batch reports or SQL scripts, we look to move those into LBI or use an IPA to create a report. So what we do is we look at your list, your rice, and we try to help you get that moved over into the appropriate technology that's going to allow you to maintain supportability in the cloud.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll ease the maintenance burden regardless of where your environment lives. So let's recap some key characteristics of the cloud environment. If we take a look at the database, you are allowed to bring custom database objects into your database. You get read permission and can use that on custom created views or store procedures that produce a result set. You'll do your system level administration through LID. So navigating through file paths and what have you is done through command line through LID. You will not have RDP access to the servers. And also keep in mind that you do not have local admin access on your servers. Elevated privileges are not available either interactively or through batch or flows driven processes.
Right. So and with that comes the fact that you won't have the Lawson user. So that you've depended on for so many years.
You can't log in as Lawson.
You will not get the Lawson user.
So what's different about cloud versus an on-premise deployment?
So the main difference, and the one that you're very likely to see early on, is the fact that in order to use your domain authentication, you're going to have to implement an ADFS server on your on-premise. So you'll the Infor environment will talk to that ADFS server for any kind of authentication through Mingle or through web-enabled interfaces, security. All of those things will move through ADFS. You still have an LDAP bind to the Infor BC domain, and the reason for that is you still have your OS environment identity that allow you to run batch jobs and allow you your access to the server in whatever modified way, such as FTP or shared file. There is a new identity that comes with the cloud. It's called the Fit Client LDAP LS, and what this identity will allow you to do is to connect to your Fit Client applications, such as Rich Client or Infor Process Designer or the mobile supply chain handhelds. All those Fit clients will use that Fit LDAP LS identity. One of the new components with the cloud that allows you to manage your ADFS connection is IFS, Infor Federation Services. What IFS does is allows you to go move from the cloud domain and pull users from your domain into the cloud. You do that utilizing AD groups you pull your users over, and that allows you to connect your applications to your server.
User account provisioning is done with Infor Security Services. This is pretty common now with Lawson 10. I think most of you out there are probably using ISS already as your main point of creating or modifying Lawson user accounts. And then, of course, with Lawson, an operating system user is required for batch users, and that's maintained using a Infor website that's called Cloud Suite Portal. So Cloud Suite Portal is your website that Infor is going to make available to you that allows you to manage the operating system user accounts on the server. You can create users in the Infor VC domain. The other function of Cloud Suite Portal is printer management, so you can add printer drivers or create a local printer on the LSF server.
Yeah, so that's true. Those two things are available right now. They hope to expand beyond those, but that what they're looking to do is replace that server administration with a one-stop, single-use portal.
Yeah, so administrative tasks that you would typically remote desktop into the server to accomplish, they're looking to move that functionality into the Cloud Suite Portal. Did you say no Lawson user? Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
So but basically you won't be able to log in to the system as the Lawson user.
Yeah, because the Lawson is an administrator on the box, so the Lawson user has the ability to remote desktop in, has the ability to move freely around the system. Infor does give you, can and will give you a decent amount of access. It's just they can't have an administrative user.
Yeah, and that's common with a hosted type platform where another organization is responsible for the uptime of the system. They're going to restrict access to the very high-level administrative functions. Okay, so that's Cloud Suite Portal. You want to talk a little bit about user account maintenance in the cloud?
So one of the things, it's one of the things that we said earlier, you'll need a Lawson system administrator. I mean, this is a good example of a reason for having an administrator is to you do your user provisioning, because even though you're in the cloud, Lawson actually added a couple of extra tasks for you so that you wouldn't need access to the server. Some of the tasks are you're going to add corporate domain users to the Lawson group. So what that means on your Active Directory server, you'll create users for the Lawson system, and then there'll be a group that you define in IFS that so IFS knows which user to grab, and you'll put that user in that IFS group. Once you put them in that IFS group, the next IFS sync, it's usually scheduled about 2 hours. You can also run it manually, but the next IFS sync will pull those users into your domain, into your Infor BC domain. If the user is a batch user and needs batch programs, you'll create that user in the Infor BC domain using the Cloud Suite Portal, which we talked about earlier. And then from there on out, most of your user administration tasks are going to be in ISS. So you're going to create your RMID, you're going to assign your SSOP, which for ADFS, your SSOP will be your Active Directory, user. You're going to create your environment identities, which is going to be the Infor BC user, and you'll create all of your other identities, your employee identities, your requester identities. And then you'll use ISS to assign your roles, assign your groups, and do all of that maintenance that normally that used to be done in the Lawson System Administrator, but is now done in ISS.
Yeah. So let's talk about some other system administrator differences.
So they're still, they're still slowly getting rid of lid. So
Wait, lid's going away?
it is going away. So we're slowly moving. We're seeing Lawson slowly move all of the tasks that you normally do in lid up to portal. So for example, you can do printer maintenance, you can do job queue maintenance, you can do distribution group maintenance. Some of the stuff that you still can't do in portal, but you'll inevitably need to do is define your recurring jobs. You'll need to do distribution list groups, define your user groups. Any command line navigation that you need to perform, you'll still have access to lid. So as long as your user has permissions, you'll be able to move through the directory structure. And then any gender binaries, for example, import DB or range DB dump or any of those, gender tasks that you would normally do from the command line. Those are all still going to be in lid.
Cool. So we'll talk a little bit about versioning and then open it up to Q&A. So there are maybe some differences about the way the system is updated when you look at the cloud versus an on-premise deployment, because Infor Services is taking responsibility to update the system, and they will do so upon request. Major updates come as a set. There are so many components of the Infor solution. Infor takes the time to really thoroughly vet their combination of component versions and produce what they call a set. So if you're looking at updating to a major release, where with an on-premise deployment, it's up to you to do the homework to say what are all the various prerequisites, what version do each, where does WebSphere need to be, is this ISS update going to require a landmark CU? Infor is basically doing all that homework and assembling what they call a set. And a la carte updates are no longer available for major updates. You have to accept the entire set, which has been tested and proven in a cloud environment to work well as a cohesive solution. Minor patches are things like application patches, CTPs. Those are still available, individually if you request them.
Yeah, and kind of just to point out there, what that really means to you is that when you have to, you can no longer take an environment service pack update. You have to take an environment service pack update, an application update, all those things together. It just becomes a little bit bigger project than you would normally have for an environment.
Yeah.
We have a question. Will Smart Office still be available?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Smart Office is still used in the cloud. Keep them coming. You could just yell them out too, I think, at this point. All right. Well, thank you so much for attending. Anything else comes to mind, do shoot us an email, and we'll see if we can help you out. And
I do have one question.
yeah.
Does the cloud accommodate landmark products?
Does the cloud accommodate landmark products? Yes, maybe more so than legacy products. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the direction that Infor is moving in, and landmark was, to borrow Infor phrase, architected for the cloud. So thank you so much for. One more.
In the beginning, did you say that 60 plus clients were in the cloud?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I? Did I? How many clients did I say were in the cloud? I don't know That's a great Infor question. I don't know how many clients in total.
I think he said 60.
Yeah, the 60 number is number of
RPIers.
number of RPIers. Yes.
So we'll get an answer from Infor and send that out to the attendees. One other question. Do you have clients who have moved from the I-Series to the cloud?
Yeah. Do we have customers that have moved from I-Series to the cloud? Oh, do we?
Yeah, so I'm in the middle of a couple now, but yeah, we have lots of I-Series that have moved to the cloud, and it's I-Series to the cloud. So.
There are some unique challenges to that project, but we have good experience with it, and be happy to answer any specific questions as a follow-up on that. Okay.
One additional.
Okay, one more coming in. Hang on.
A federated environment would still exist in the cloud?
A federated environment would still exist in the cloud.
Yes.
Yeah, if we, talking about the way that LSF and Landmark sort of work together from an authentication perspective, all that stuff remains in the cloud. I think all that infrastructure that you would see on an on-premise deployment, it exists in the cloud as well.
Yep.
Along with IFS and these additional elements.
Right.
Yeah. All right. And with that, we really are going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for sticking with us, and check back in just under an hour from now
We have an Infor answer.
We have an Infor said, wow, already. Over 160 clients are in the cloud. That's Infor clients.
Probably Infor wide.
Probably Infor wide is what we suspect there. So over 160 customers are in the Infor Cloud today. Great. Check back in just under an hour for our final webinar of the day. For those of you running Infor Lawson on Windows 2008, hear what's going to happen and what you need to do there. Thank you so much, and we'd be happy to answer any follow-up questions on cloud and get your cloud journey started right. Thanks for tuning in today.